Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something pretty exciting from Wallander Instruments. Noteperformer 5 just landed.
Yeah, big news in the notation world.
Absolutely. So if you're using Dorico or Sibelius or Finale, you
Yeah.
know that playback, getting it to sound really good can be tricky.
Oh, definitely. That robotic sound, we've all been there. Noteperformer's always been great at, breathing some life into scores.
Exactly. Making them sound surprisingly musical.
And version 5, it feels like more than just a tweak. It feels like a proper step up.
I agree. We're seeing, 24 new instruments straight off the bat?
Mm-hmm.
But the really big story seems to be this complete overhaul of the Noteperformer playback engines, the NPPE system.
That's the one. That looks like it could genuinely change how we work with our own sort of high-end sample libraries within notation.
Right, so taking Noteperformer's brain, its musical intelligence.
And letting it drive those really detailed third-party sounds we might already own, bringing that quality right into Dorico or Sibelius.
Okay, so whether you're just sketching out ideas, maybe doing a mock-up, or, let's face it, just interested in the latest music tech,
Mm-hmm.
this dive into Noteperformer 5 should give you the lowdown. What's new, why it matters, and hopefully without getting too lost in the tech weeds.
Sounds good. Where should we start? The core library updates.
Yeah, let's start there. Those new instruments are probably the first thing people will
For
notice.
sure, 24 of them. And it's a really interesting mix, quite diverse.
It really is. I mean, looking down the list,
Mhm.
it's not just standard orchestral stuff, is it? There's a whole bunch of world instruments.
It's really
You've got things like allophone, both mallets and bowed, which is cool. Uyen bagpipes, bansuri, dulcimer,
Erahu Gusheng Koto Shamisen?
shakuhachi, sitar, steel pan. It's quite the global tour.
It really is. It feels like they're embracing that trend of, blending different sonic worlds. It makes exploring those textures much easier right from the start.
Yeah, imagine layering a koto with strings or something. Now, much more doable inside Noteperformer itself.
Exactly. But they haven't forgotten other areas. There are new keyboards, too.
Right, like a clavinet, nice and funky.
Mm.
And 2 electric pianos.
Yeah, a stage piano sound, an FM-style one, plus an upright piano, which often has a lovely intimate feel.
And some percussion additions, too. Handbells, tempo blocks.
Mm-hmm. And then for the electronic side, a couple of synth basses, synth lead square and saw, and 2 synth pads.
So it really feels like they're aiming for a much broader appeal, covering more musical bases.
I think so. And it's not just new sounds. There are some workflow enhancements, too, particularly for Dorico users, it seems.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, the big one is being able to route different instruments to separate stereo outputs within Dorico.
Okay, walk me through that. Why is that a big deal for someone maybe less focused on the final mix stage?
Well, it just gives you way more control later on. Say you want different reverb on your woodwinds compared to your brass.
Right, or pan them differently.
Exactly. Instead of having everything mushed together on one stereo output, you can send the sections out separately to your DAW or mixer. Makes detailed mixing much, much easier.
Ah, I see. So cleaner separation for polishing the final track. Makes sense. Any other core tweaks?
A small thing, but helpful. In the Noteperformer mixer, orchestral percussion now shows the actual instrument names.
Oh, that's handy. No more guessing what percussion 3 is supposed to be in a big score.
Precisely. Saves a bit of time and potential confusion. Also, they've dedicated MIDI CC112 specifically for controlling timing humanization.
Timing humanization. That's the sort of subtle push and pull in rhythm to make it sound less, robotic.
Exactly that. Giving it its own controller means you have more direct, fine-grained control over that rhythmic feel. You can dial in just how loose or tight you want it.
Nice. More expressive control.
And another one for Dorico, an option to manually remove unused channels.
Okay. Practical benefit, better performance.
Potentially, yeah. Especially on really big projects. If you've got lots of channels loaded but not actually playing anything, getting rid of them can free up CPU and RAM. Make things run a bit smoother.
Good to know. What about Sibelius users? Any goodies for them?
Yes, the MIDI pitch bend range is now fixed at 2 octaves.
Fixed. Why is that good?
It just means more predictable behavior. Stops you accidentally getting those wild multi-octave pitch bends unless you specifically map it that way. Consistency, really.
Okay.
And maybe more excitingly, especially for, more experimental composers, there's a new Sibelius plugin just for quarter tone playback.
Quarter tones. In Sibelius, natively handled by Noteperformer. Wow.
Yeah. Opens up possibilities for microtonal stuff, exploring sounds beyond the standard 12 notes. Think contemporary classical or music from certain non-Western traditions.
That could be really powerful for composers pushing boundaries. And any other subtle refinements?
They've added scoop and plop articulations for non-sustaining instruments.
Scoops and plops. Explain those.
Well, a scoop is like sliding up into the note from just below. Think brass,
Yeah,
maybe.
that little bend into the pitch.
Right. And a plop is more of a sort of sudden, maybe slightly percussive attack. Adds character, makes things sound a bit more played, less programmed.
Little details that add up to more realism. Sounds like they're really focusing on musicality.
Seems so. And a couple of Dorico-specific fixes, too. Pizzicato combined with the harmonic marking now just plays pizzicato, which is usually what's intended.
Standard practice, yeah.
And tam-tam now maps correctly to the large gong sound by default. Just sensible mapping.
Good. What else? Drum set timing.
Ah, yes, they've slightly reduced the default timing humanization on the drum set.
Why might they do that?
Maybe aiming for a slightly tighter default groove could be better for pop, rock, funk styles where you want things really locked in, perhaps. You can still adjust it, of course.
True. And bug fixes. Always important.
Yep, they fixed a mistuned F1 on the harp, apparently.
Ouch. Glad that's fixed.
And sorted out some incorrect tom-tom mapping in the Dorico drum set definition. Good housekeeping.
Definitely shows attention to detail and listening to users.
And finally, just general mentions of subtle tweaks to volume balances, legato transitions, vibrato, the ongoing refinement you'd expect.
Okay, so lots of solid improvements to the core sounds and behavior, but we hinted before, the real headline grabber seems to be this NPKE5 thing.
Absolutely. The Noteperformer playback engine overhaul. That's the big one.
So what's the fundamental change here? What's the concept?
The core idea is that MPPE5 lets you integrate pretty much any third-party VST3 sample library you own and have Noteperformer drive it using its musical interpretation engine.
Whoa, so instead of just Noteperformer's built-in sounds, I could use my fancy orchestral strings library or that specific ethnic flute library I bought.
That's the idea. And they've built a new way to host these VST3s that's optimized specifically for notation software playback.
Optimized how?
Well, the really striking claim is that it significantly reduces the RAM and CPU load typically associated with those huge detailed libraries.
Okay, that is huge news, because those libraries can cripple a system, right?
Right.
Especially on, say, a laptop.
Exactly. Many people can't realistically use their best sounds directly in their notation software because the computer just can't handle it. And PPE5 aims to change that.
How? What's the magic? Is it this preloading technology?
That seems to be the key. It's a bit technical, but essentially when you first tell NPPE5 you want to use a specific VST3 library, it runs a one-time analysis process. It scans the library, figures out the important stuff, articulations, dynamics, tuning, and preloads a kind of optimized subset of the sample.
A subset, not the whole library.
A smart subset. It converts these preloaded samples into what they call a Noteperformer-powered hybrid instrument.
Okay, so it's not just pointing to the VST3 files anymore. It's like it's building its own version based on the original.
Kind of, yeah. It learns from the VST3 library and creates this optimized version that its own engine can control intelligently and efficiently. It's not just streaming gigabytes off the disk in real time like traditional samplers often do.
Right, the disk streaming is often the bottleneck.
Exactly. So this preloading offers big advantages. First, performance. Loading this optimized version into RAM using audio compression, it means much faster load times, way less RAM needed, much lower CPU hue hit during playback.
That alone sounds amazing. Less waiting, less crashing.
Hopefully. Second, stability. Because Noteperformer is now managing the playback of these sounds more directly via its preloaded engine. Wallander can take more ownership of fixing playback bugs. It's less dependent on the VST3 developer having optimized specifically for this unusual hosting scenario.
So potentially fewer weird glitches or compatibility issues between Noteperformer and Library X.
That's the goal, yeah. Smoother sailing. And thirdly, potentially better, more musical playback consistency.
How so?
Because NPPE analyzes the samples before playback checks their actual tuning, duration, volume levels, it can make smarter choices about which sample variation to trigger, how to handle transitions, dynamics, etc. It's using its musical brain on those external sounds at a deeper level.
So it's trying to combine the sonic detail of the big libraries with the performance intelligence Noteperformer is known for.
Precisely. Best of both worlds, hopefully.
Now this preloading, you said it's a one-time thing per library. What's that process like for the user?
Well, they're upfront that it can be pretty intensive. It needs to analyze potentially gigabytes of samples, so it could take anywhere from, say, 30 minutes for a smaller library to several hours for a massive orchestral one.
Okay, so you set it running and go make a cup of tea. Or maybe dinner.
Pretty much. It's an investment of time upfront. It's doing all that analysis timing, dynamics, mapping articulations, and building that optimized version.
And does it take up much extra hard drive space building these optimized versions?
Yes, it does. You'll need a good chunk of free space, potentially several gigabytes per library for these .mp preload files it creates.
Right. So factor that in. But a payoff is supposed to be much faster loading and lower resource use later.
That's the promise. Once preloaded, the instruments should load very quickly and be much lighter on the system during playback. Upfront effort for long-term gain.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do we actually use this?
Yeah.
Do I need to buy special MPPE engine files for my libraries?
No, and this is really good news. The factory NTPE engines for compatible libraries are now included with Noteperformer 5 itself. No extra cost for the engine.
Oh, wow. So if I own, say, Spitfire Strings VST3.
And Noteperformer 5, the engine to make them work together is included, but, and this is crucial, you obviously still need to own and have installed that Spitfire library.
Right. Noteperformer provides the car, but you still need to own the fuel.
Exactly. It provides the intelligence and the hosting framework, but not the actual third-party sample content.
Got it. That's a very user-friendly approach, though, including the engines.
Definitely lowers the barrier. And interestingly, they say the MPPC5 format itself is open and redistributable.
Neither.
Meaning, while most users won't touch this, advanced users could potentially tweak the engines, maybe even create engines for libraries that don't have official factory support yet, and share them.
Really? Like edit which articulations are mapped, adjust things?
Yeah, apparently you can edit VST3 presets within the engine context, add or remove articulations, instruments, microphone positions, and then redistribute that modified engine file. That's quite powerful for customization.
That is deep. Opens up possibilities for power users and maybe community sharing. Okay, let's talk practicalities. Getting Noteperformer 5, price, availability.
Best news first.
Yeah.
If you already have a Noteperformer license, any previous version, version 5 is a completely free update.
Fantastic. How do existing users get it?
Just go to the Noteperformer website. There's usually a section where you can request a fresh download link using your existing license details. They'll email you the link for the new version.
Brilliant. Okay, what about new users? Someone hearing about this thinking, I need this.
For new users, the price is unchanged. It's still $129 for a perpetual single-user license.
When that license covers.
It's pretty generous. Covers usage on multiple personal computers like your desktop and your laptop, and it works with all the supported notation programs, Sibelius, Dorico, and Finale.
So one purchase works across the board on your personal machines. That's good value.
I think so. And they also have that rent-to-own option still.
Ah, yes. How does that work?
It's $10.75 per month. You pay monthly, and as soon as your total payments hit the $129 mark, it automatically converts to that full perpetual license. So it's basically an installment plan.
Makes it more accessible if you can't swing the full price up front.
Exactly. And for institutions, schools, businesses, they offer site licenses. Pricing starts around $200 for up to 5 seats and goes up from there.
And the key difference with site licenses is they're for computers owned by the organization, right? Not the user's personal machines.
That's typically how site licenses work, yes. Tied to the organization's hardware.
Good distinction. And just to hammer it home one more time, using NPPE with, say, a VST3 library from orchestral tools.
You need Noteperformer 5, and you need a valid license for and installation of that orchestral tools VST3 library. NPPE doesn't magically give you sounds you don't own.
Crystal clear. What if someone wants to try before they buy? Is there a demo?
Yes, there's a 30-day trial. The only limitation is that it works for 1 hour at a time.
Meeting.
After an hour of use, you'll need to restart your notation software, Dorico, Sibelius, or Finale, to get another hour. But you can do that as many times as you like within the 30 days.
Okay, so fully functional just requires restarting every hour during the trial period. Still plenty of time to see if it works for you.
Absolutely. Enough time to test the sounds, try the NPPE integration if you have VST3s, see how it performs on your system.
And if people want the absolute nitty-gritty details, the full changelog, the user manual,
the Noteperformer website is the place to go. Wallander keeps it updated with the latest version history and the full user guide. Definitive source.
Okay, so wrapping this up. Noteperformer 5 feels like a really significant update.
It really does.
You've got the expanded core library,
Mm.
those interesting new instruments, opening up sonic possibilities,
World instruments, synths, keyboards.
plus all the workflow refinements. But the main event is clearly this NBPE5 overhaul.
Without a doubt. The potential to integrate third-party VST3 libraries so tightly and potentially so efficiently, that's the game changer.
Yeah, promising better performance, more stability, deeper integration, while still leveraging Noteperformer's musical smarts.
It seems like they're really trying to give you the best of both worlds. Noteperformer's intelligent playback and the sound quality of dedicated sample libraries.
Now, making it a free update for existing users, that's just fantastic value.
Can't argue with free.
So for you, the listener, the learner, this update really could empower you, whether you're a pro or just starting out, getting more realistic, more expressive playback.
With more flexibility, potentially using sounds you already own, and maybe even needing less powerful hardware to do it, thanks to that preloading tech. It could really streamline things.
Definitely. So it leaves us with a thought, doesn't it? Considering this expanded instrument palette, and especially this potential to integrate your own favorite sample libraries so much more seamlessly, how might Noteperformer 5 actually change the way you approach putting your musical ideas together?
Or maybe thinking about that performance boost from the preloading. Are there any of those really demanding virtual instruments sitting on your hard drive that you'd written off as too heavy for notation work that you might now reconsider bringing into your composing workflow?
Yeah, something to definitely think about as you explore what Noteperformer 5 can do,